Verbal Quick Video, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday. People like to welcome you all to the show, right? Look, man, I got my boy Low Key in the building with me. What's up, Low?
God.
Yeah, right. Look, this is a very important topic now. If you all focus on what's behind this and this here contraption, this is old historic slave quarters, right? They probably had about 10 sleeping in that one home or slave quarters, right? And the topic today is reparations, right? Now, there's a vast variety of what we call ethnicities, if I'm correct, meaning you had the black native that was already here, you had blacks coming from Africa, from the Caribbean, you know, that were all enslaved in what we now call America. And so the conversation and the topic, right, and the aim and the cry is now for reparations, right? So I'm gonna pass it on to my more than capable guest, Low Key, on actually describing why there's a need for reparations and two-part question. And should it be awarded to all uh, indigenous or original people that's in the Americas?
Okay. And if I miss anything, let me know.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I answer the latter question. Should it be awarded to all indigenous people? Well, this is for people who are descendants of slavery, and like you said, you're talking about people from the Caribbean. If we talk about in the 1800s, there was a slave revolt that got up to, I want to say, like 500 members. And there was a brother named Charles. So when you Google Charles and the slave revolt that happened in the 1800s, it'll pop right up. And he was a Haitian brother. And he led that particular slave revolt. And when you look it up, you'll actually see pictures of a few heads, and they have what looks like spears through them. And that was because that brother, along with the other brothers that was involved with it, when they were murdered during the slave revolt, they were beheaded, and they put their heads on stakes. So you can find now pictures of them actually putting models up of these beheaded Moors. One of the matter of fact, under one of the heads it said a mirror. So that's like a telltale sign, that it was Moors involved in this.
Right.
And I want to say also that I read that there was brothers from Angola that was involved, and Ghana as well. And so, and then there was another slave revolt, very important, very key. All of them is very key, but the Stono Rebellion of 1739, these was actually brothers from the Kingdom of Congo, and they burned down 6 plantations, and most of them were murdered during this slave revolt. And there might have been some that they said that was in prison, but we know how that goes. So, but these brothers were from the Kingdom of Congo. So, whether you're talking about brothers who was already here or brothers that came from the Caribbean or from Africa, all of us, have rights to claim. And that first slave revolt that I was talking about, that was in the early 1800s. So we're talking about one generation removed from where most of us can trace back the names of our ancestors. I know when you go to Ancestry.com and you look up those birth certificates, most of us are able to go back to like the mid-1800s. That's only one generation removed from our ancestry that we could actually pinpoint and get names and get, whatever racial classification that the Europeans were classifying them under. So when you try to separate yourself from the Caribbean and from Africa and so on and so forth, you're only one generation removed from where they were actually able to identify the these people that were involved in these slave revolts, where they were actually from. That's real key. So while you're calling them tethers and you got these derogatory terms, you only got to go one generation back to find out that the same people that you're admonishing are you probably is coming from, more than likely, or there's a good chance that these people are coming from the Caribbean or from Africa. So we got to keep that in mind.
Right. And on another note, we're talking. We had, and you might can explain all the different types of spiritual systems or religions that the slaves, some brought with them from Africa. You had Muslims already here, but then you had Muslims who Muslims who had to convert to Christianity, due to the punishment of death. You had some of the Native American practices that was going on. Now, what about, did any of the, say, Ifa or Igbo or any of the African spiritual concepts, was that brought over here as well?
Yeah, so shout out to Mary Kush. I can tell you about Haiti and Haitian Revolution and the Marabou people. You got Marabou people in Haiti now. You got Marabou people in Africa now, because that's where they originally came from. And so I actually got this information from Mary Kush. They put out over 33 books. I got a nice amount of books from them. And we're also working with them as well. Shout out to Mansa Muhammad. The Vondon was a mixture of indigenous practice and Sufism. Matter of fact, when you look up, Google the Library of Congress, and one of the leaders of the Haitian Revolution, the brother Toussaint L'Ouverture, and you'll see that there's a picture of him in the Library of Congress website, where he actually has a red fez on with the black tassel. So yeah, and like I said, you had Haitians that was a part of the slave revolts, like the brother Charles in the 1800s. So now, as far as the Ifa, I'm not as well versed on, on the history of Ifa, but I'm sure, I'm sure that was, because when you go into botanicas now, and usually, you'll see Latino people, you don't always typically see, brothers and sisters that look like me and Brother Black in there. You do sometimes, but you'll go into these botanicas. They're all, it's funny, because when I bring this up to our people, most of our people have never heard of a botanica. They always think that it's a botanical, something having to do with plants.
Right.
But it's actually a place where they have spiritual items in there. And so even though you have Latino people going in and out, Mexicans going in and out of these botanicas, when you actually go in there, you're going to see your face and statues of you all around the botanica. And they're selling these particular items to, these Latinos, so-called Hispanics. And so you have Ifa, a lot of Ifa items in there, Palo Mambe, Palo Monte, which finds its origins in the Congo. So you have all these African, indigenous systems right in your neck of the woods, because just take this city, for example, there's countless amount of botanicas in this particular city, and in walking distance of all our hoods, all our ghettos, so your spiritual systems, your indigenous spiritual systems are right under your nose, but because of slavery, you've been so far removed, you don't even know what people are doing around you. They're looking at you and they understand your culture better than you do. They understand your history better than you do. And we have an identity issue, and that's the reason why we're going in circles.
Yeah, because I'm understanding that whole system of not allowing the slaves to read or write, to totally demolish our spiritual system, our being, even breaking down of the body during slavery, right? That destruction plays an effect on us today. So reparations I would say, is a way of an allotment or monies that would in order us to focus on rebuilding ourselves mentally, spiritually, and physically, which will allot some time in order to do that. Because since the so-called Emancipation Proclamation, and we celebrate Juneteenth, and when Galveston first got the word that they were free, and from that point in time where the slaves were supposed to be free, because we all know right after that, you had the Jim Crow and the Black Codes and whatnot, right? But when the slaves, it's like saying you've been a slave for 300 and something years to 400 years, right? Now go out there and see what you can do in this society. When the European had a chance to set up establishments and trade of money and insight on knowledge, and was able to build. So when they released the slaves, they were like, well, I'm free to do what? I don't have this skill. What am I supposed to do? Meaning they didn't, and there was a reason why the slave was promised 40 acres and a mule, 40 acres and a mule, because they understood that it would take something, some land, and that mule to establish wealth or capital for them in order to survive in a capitalistic society. Without those things, they knew that there would be hard times and poverty. And what does hard time and poverty? What does it produce? It's more problems. It's like if you take a bunch of people that's in poverty with a lack of knowledge, you put them all in one area. Of course, there's going to be chaos, which they knew that. So reparations can repair all the damage, so people can be functioning literate in today's society, right? So I'm saying all that, and I'm leading up to a question. Right? I'm saying all that to say, to ask that how, and is there a time limit, which I don't know, that can repair the damage that was done to once great people? You know, how much damage is evident that we can be seen today? Meaning, how is that uh, applying itself in today's time?
That particular damage.
Yeah, that particular damage. How is it affecting us today?
Well, the biggest thing that it did to us, the denationalization of the Moors, the disenfranchisement of the Africans that were prisoners of war, so-called slaves, is that us being stripped of our identity is the source of us running like hamsters in a wheel going in circles and keep on asking the question, why are things not changing? When Dr. Claude Anderson did his Powernomics speech, the legend, the living legend, Dr. Claude, and said that in 100 years we haven't moved one iota in terms of progress in the realm of power, wealth, and resources, is because of denationalization. There's a court case, and there's where they actually stated that denationalization is more primitive than torture. It's worse than torture because it destroys an identity that was centuries in the making. So it took us, quite a bit amount of time for us to cultivate these particular royal cultures that we have pre-colonial times. So we don't have any pride in our culture for real, because we're not pulling from a culture that is pre-colonial. We're pulling from a culture that is predicated on slavery. So this culture that was created for us is keeping us, bound in these kind of cage minds that we have, where you put an animal in a cage, you open up the gate and they still stay inside the cage because
Lying in the cage.
of that, you know, that kind of traumatic experience of being, you know, denationalized, stripped, you know, capitis diminutia maximum is the term of the maximum stripping is what we went through. And in terms of what you were saying about, you know, well, why is reparations important? Well, reparations is a grant. Just like you get a grant in college, and reparations is actually repair. The root of it is repair. It's literally to bring repairs to an injured party. Well, who are the injured party? That's us, the descendants of so-called slaves, really prisoners of war that were kidnapped. So we're talking late 1400s when this kicked off. So we're literally talking about 500 plus years of, you know, slavery going on to this day, because the 13th Amendment says that slavery is still going on. People that's incarcerated that have been out there in the fields where you still got police on horseback while you out there, you know, picking cotton, and you know you're getting slave wages, you know, you're getting pennies, you know, just so you can buy a honey bun at the end of the week. Slavery is still going on. The prisoners of today are the same prisoners of war of the past, because the prisoners of today, the reason why they're in prison, in European prisons, is because the Europeans, they won those wars, you know, during the triangular slave trade. And the only reason why they won is because we were infighting. Get the book, The Discovery of America was an outgrowth of the conquest of the Moors in Spain. Pick up that book. If I'm saying the title correctly, it'll pop up. You go on Amazon, you'll find it. And they talk about how there was two Moor sultanas, and they were fighting over their child carrying, basically being the next to the throne, to carry on the throne. And because there was that particular disagreement going on, it led to bloodshed. So while that bloodshed was going on between the Moors infighting in Grenada, Spain in 1492, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand becoming married and putting their two factions together, they capitalized on that. They got in the ear on one side, capitalized on it, and took over from there, because Spain and Portugal were the first two powerhouses that took over in 1492 after the Moors fell. You know, so reparations is important because what it does is, this is the incentive that our people need in order for them to come back into their pre-colonial identity. So when people try to say, you know, one of the first things that you'll always hear when we say, okay, well, we're going to utilize the Morris treaties because they talk about reparations in the treaty. They talk about slavery being illegal. They say, well, you know, they're not going to honor the treaties, even though you can look up the Ottawa Chippewa. They actually got their $32 million reparations settlement because of the 1836 treaty that they utilized. And, you know, so it's already been proven that that could be utilized. But let's just say, for the sake of conversation, that they don't honor it. Well, when ADO West came out and when FBA came out, and now you got people calling themselves Black Americans, all it took was somebody telling our people that they were going to get reparations for them to change their identity, and for them to now take on this identity. And now they're starting to build a culture of hate where they're hating on the Caribbean, they're hating on the Africans, even though we have documents, physical proof of people from the Caribbean and from Africa being a part of those actual slave revolts, you know, and we ain't talking too far back. So one of the most important things about reparations is that this is the incentive that we should utilize in order to bring our people to come back into our identity so we can get our minds right. Because just giving us money, we all know that that's not going to be enough. We're going to give that right back to everybody else. And reparations is not just a money thing, even though, yes, we're going to get those checks, but also is creating facilitation processes for us to be able to change our identity, something that's going to be more suitable, like Moor or Hebrew or whatever you choose, is going to be more suitable for your people to come into a pre-colonial culture that is suitable for us to start progressing and growing, and not just a few of us getting money as entertainers, which we see that hasn't changed the ghetto. You still go in the ghettos in this city and they towed down to the ground. I mean, literally, I got pictures of houses where there ain't nothing but a roof on the ground. There's no house standing up. You go in the Fifth Ward, you go in the Trinity Gardens, Casimir Gardens, Acres Home, South Park, Sunnyside, towed down to the ground, ghettos, poverty. homeless people everywhere. More homeless people now than it was 10 years ago. So things ain't getting better. Don't let the illusion of a few people getting some chips here and there make you think that things are really changing. That's all a gimmick, that's all propaganda. You go into our neighborhoods and you see the truth. You see that things haven't changed, and as a matter of fact, they're getting worse. Right. You know, so we utilize reparations in order to ultimately bring our people back into their pre-colonial culture and to get their mind right. That's the number one benefit of reparations.
Exactly. They just had a case that settled through the court system where black females were allotted monies to open up businesses, but a white ring group took them to court and said that was racism because you only giving it to black females, and won. And the system was like, well, if they start doing that, then what do we have? Where is it putting us, right? Right. But they felt that this is I could be wrong, but this is my theory. What you position the courts or the government to even the playing field. If you put it under the title of reparations, now you have a stronger case because you can say, under reparations, I should be awarded these monies due to this, and then the history can back it up. And yes, okay, that did happen. We didn't pay. You didn't get the 4 acres in the mule, but we didn't give you money like we gave to the Japanese, or like we allotted to Israel and other people. We gave you all nothing. So if it was structured under the term reparations, I believe now they couldn't come back and take away everything that was allotted to black people. Right. Now, this is another topic, right? And I want you to explain this. So, under Constantine's form of Christianity, not the Catholic or the Gnostic, but the Constantine part of Christianity, where they structured the white Jesus and they pushed that in the forefront of black people's minds, right? You would have to explain more, because what was done is that they separate more from Christianity, and it has the black Christians looking at the Moors or the Muslims or Pan-Africans as enemies, or not, or something that they're afraid to or don't want to align themselves with the ideology, and not understanding that they are Moors too. So can you explain it in a way to show that you are actually looking at yourself in the mirror and not liking yourself when you say you don't like the Moors or you don't like these other groups, when you are part of those other groups?
Right. Well, one thing about it is that just because you're Moor doesn't mean that you have to automatically adopt the religion of Islam. You know, to the Moors, Islam literally means peace, first and foremost. Right. Salam means peace. You know, now you had Moors in the past, the Maranos, so on and so forth, that the Maranos in particular, they were utilizing what today we call Judaism. You know, you had Sufi Moors, you know, you had Moors that were dealing with, you know, indigenous practices, you know, African-centered practices, so on and so forth, you know. So joining, you know, these particular groups, whether it's Pan-African, you know, the NOI, the Moors, or what have you, you know, these are all, like I was saying earlier, cultures that predate slavery, you know. So, you know, you cutting your nose off to spite your face when you choose not to attach yourself to something that's literally a part of your bloodline, your DNA memory, you know. So it's nothing to be afraid of. You know, you don't lose anything by, you know, gaining knowledge yourself. You don't have anything to gain. I mean, our people, like I was saying earlier, when you go in the neighborhoods, I mean, you can see that that's evident. You know, so I mean, it's gonna happen anyway. So we're just here to speed up the process.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, it's that. I believe it's that fear that they put into our ancestors. You know what I mean? When they were babies, and they feel as though, wow, wait a minute, if I don't be a part, we're gonna break for the train. we, you know, look, just in case we got some old ancestors that want to run out this slave house to jump on the train and ride their way to freedom. The train is coming through. Final call.
Already.
Get on board the train, man. We finna ride out of here.
Already, they start baptism.
That's all right, man. Look, our runaways, it's time to run away. You know what I'm saying? Can't be scared, man. Some folks get scared when they feet, their legs won't move.
Yeah.
They scared. Well, it's like that. Yeah. What man's gonna do to me if I run? And you got freedom way over there waiting on you.
Right.
But you stuck by fear.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Stagnant, and that's why I was saying. A lot of times, it's fear of what the grandparents told them, because the grandparents and the great grandparents, the forefathers, saw what the slaver did to the slaves that was rebellious or who didn't want to give up their identity to accept a new identity. You know, who didn't want to give up their name to accept a European name, what they call a Christian name. Didn't want to, you know, give up who they were. Didn't want to give up their way of praying, how they prayed for centuries. They didn't want to just give it up because you said you had to give it up. And so the punishment that they received, that when the people witnessed that, they were like, okay, I'm going to get in line. You know what I mean? I'm in line.
Exactly.
And in their subconscious mind, even though it's 2024, it still sends a message. If you say Muslim, you say Moor, they automatically, I don't know if I want to get involved with none of that. I don't, you know. But that's because your genetic coding carries memory. You got to break those spiritual, genetic, mental chains to be free, right? And that's another way, and that's another reason I believe of why the hoods anywhere in America will resemble old slave quarters, right? Because that fear to break those mental, spiritual, genetic chains and go for theirs freely haven't been broke yet. Right. So you can see Zoe Slave Quarter House behind us. You can go to certain neighborhoods and you see houses still like that. It's 2024.
Fact.
And some would even look worse than that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because the people don't know. They're like, damn, you know what I mean? What do I do? How do I build? What, you know, no 4 acres. Who gonna teach? You know, and that's why I say, if you love your people and you're in a church, you're a pastor, right? If you're not teaching economics, balancing budgets and money habits and money management, you're doing your flock a disgrace, a disservice. Because you gotta break the mental mind with money. The slave mind with money would destroy you. It would keep you in an impoverished state. And see, there's answers to that in Islam or in the Moorish culture on how to build and get out of that mindset. That those mental chains and shackles, those physical chains and shackles that they literally put on the physical body, where they form of religion like as a blanket kind of, and just cloaked it over you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they was like, okay, now see if you can fight your way out of this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then you got people like yourself and this show that will say, okay, look, here's a not here's a methodology. Here's a way to where you can get that cloak off of you. You know, some might have a like Master Muhammad, right, coming right, would come to America with a knowledge as a prescription. Apply this knowledge, take this knowledge within yourself, and this is a way you can get that cloak off of you and be free, right? Some might come with a knowledge saying, well, look, this is what you got to do, and you can eat through it, or you can pierce through that cloak and come up through the top. You know, some got knowledge where they just teach you how to just grab the whole thing and just take it off of you and go. But as long as you get it off of you is the point.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Just get the cloak off of you, you know?
Right.
Because now this is another thing, right? Right. We gonna try. You've been checking out some of the stuff that Charles and White been saying lately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm calling the police. I'm a so and so, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me explain that real quick, bro. Then we'll get back to it. I gotta get this out of my mind, right?
Yes, sir.
Now look, this is how it works, right? So a person come about the hood, right? Say you grew up in the hood all your life, right? Right. But then all of a sudden you leave your community and now you're going around other communities, white communities, right? And you seeing how they working with each other and you seeing how money is being made, right? And they'll sit back and watch you, right? And if they feel like, okay, I can make some money out of this one, let's pull them up a little bit and just check them out, right? So now they pull you up, and now you're out of these waters. Now you're into some new waters, right? And if we got the mentality, we got the mind, right? If we just clean up our act, clean up the hood, we could be getting this money too, doing the same thing, right? But what he's saying is, the dog whistle is, look here, if y'all send the police within these communities and bring y'all tanks and get rid of all the quote unquote unwanted, right? Then we can have peace and we can start rebuilding, right? Now, the mistake with that is once they, it's just like with the Native Americans, once they do that, they're gonna turn right on you.
Right.
You done called them in to get rid of all your soldiers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But so you have to look into why certain things are said, and he's right though, because now he's right on this part. Oh man, it's pathetic, bro. It's pathetic. No elderly female, husband passed, living in our community, should be afraid of getting up person snatch a house robbed. That shouldn't even be a thought. As men in the community, what's happening? How could that even be a reality? How can a elderly man get robbed or get jacked? He trying to walk. His doctor might tell him, hey man, you need to walk up and down your block neighborhood for the exercise to get your blood circulating. You know, you got to walk every day around this time or whatever, right? He can't get out there and walk scared he gonna get robbed or something. That's not living. But it all ties back to there was no reparation given either that could have curbed these problems 100 years ago, right? So we dealing with so this is the thing, we stuck today dealing with these issues and problems, right? And I like your solution as far as the contracts, the documents that you write out for sovereignty and nationality, and can you explain the what is sovereignty and nationality and the importance of it, because some people don't understand. They hear these terms, and this is for ladies. They hear these terms, I'm sorry, or they hear these terms, well, this is my nationality, or they hear these terms of this is my race. And they don't like nobody has sat down and really explained what sovereignty and nationality is. If you could break that down.
Okay. So, first off, as far as sovereignty, is ultimately sovereignty, one part of it is where you have a military, if you will, that can secure where your people are.
Okay.
So one thing you can do is that you get private property, you can get your private security company in order to protect it. You know, now there are Sharia courts that already exist in America. They are limited in their subject matter jurisdiction, but that can be built upon. You know, the first step though is to align the understanding of having private property, a private security company to protect it, add on the Sharia courts, and go from there. You know, sovereignty is being able to have your own, protect your own, you know, be self-sufficient, you know, which we was, you know, in the past, and not too long ago. And nationality is nation, flag, and creed. When you got your own, your nation is the body of people. Your creed is the spiritual system that the political system is built off of, because religion is nothing but your political status. So religion comes out of whatever your spiritual system is, because take the U.S. When you go into their legal system, you'll find all of this Christian terminology in their documentations, things like prayer to the court, you know, so on and so forth, you know. So they they use their Catholic Christian system, and they build their politics, their political system out of that particular ideology of Catholicism, Christianity. Matter of fact, the Christian doctrine of discovery is what they actually used in the Johnson versus McIntosh case, where there was the indigenous tribe that was, you know, trying to hold on to this land, and the United States actually ruled against that indigenous tribe, and they utilized the Christian doctrine of discovery that Spain put out a long time ago, that said that if you had Europeans that came to a land and there was non-Christians there, that they had the backing of Spain, their military, to actually take over that land, utilizing the Christian doctrine of discovery. So Christianity is actually the foundation of the United States and of all European nations. You know, so religion, uh, religion has to be looked at in two ways, because usually when you hear people in the conscious community, they look at it as a derogatory thing. And on one hand, yes, you know, we could say that etymology wise that it means to bind back, you know, but then on the other hand, you have to understand how it is just a organization system, as a political system that comes out of our spiritual systems in order to have, you know, a type of governing system. You know, the more people that you have, the more things that you have in place to keep things organized, you know. So that's why when you look at what they call the Abrahamic religions, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, you find so many laws on the books, because there's so many people that fall under those particular religions, you know. So nationality, in terms of, let's just take like the flag, you know, for our people, for, you know, Negroes, or, you know, or black people that are in America, they don't have their own flag. They get the U.S. flag, or the Star Spangled Banner. You know, that's actually a European flag. I know that you'll see the Moors, you know, flying the flag and so on and so forth, but we got to understand that when Noble Drew Ali came out in the 1930s, we're talking almost 100 years ago. So even he said that there was going to be more that came after him that was going to update the process. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to honor our ancestors, but also update the process and not get stagnant, not be the hamster on the wheel going in circles. We got to always be evolving. Right. You know, we got to be in line with our melanin. Our melanin is constantly changing, you know, and we got to be in alignment with that change, you know, because that's our nature. You know, now there was the sister Massey,
Simon Massey. Right.
That was, she called the police, right, and then was murdered by them.
Right.
You know, so that's why it's important. Sovereignty is important, so you can call on your own people, right, to that, and especially, you know, you're talking about within a conscious community. If we're talking about, you know, those of us who have knowledge of self and people who are coming in knowledge of self, we got a different mindset. We're not, right, just looking to commit genocide on our own people, you know, on the kind of scale that really nowhere, period, but definitely not on the scale that we have now going on in the black community, where you have wholesale
Right.
murders going on, within our communities. So when now I'll say this technically, when you say nationality in the United States, that refers to citizenship. But at the same time, if you're talking about uh, the Moor identity, MOOR identity, which you can find in the Dictionary of Races of Peoples, which was published by the United States Immigration Commission, it is actually would be classified as a race or a national origin, and also you could call it a ethnological nationality, which is more of an abstract term, but it's just a term. When you look up ethnological or ethnographical, then you'll be able to figure out that there was old world nationalities where you didn't have these new nation states that, you know, like, for example, when you go into those treaties with Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, etc., they don't use the term Moroccan or Algerian. None of those terms are actually in those treaties. They say Moors, Jews, Christians, Muslim, Mohammedan, uh, Christian and Englishman are synonymous terms, because back then it was more in your face that your religion and your national origin were synonymous. Now we see little bit more separation in those terms, but a lot of that stuff is also by design as well. So uh, nationality, when you hear the Moors talking about it and they say nation, flag, and creed, they're saying that we don't have something of our own. We don't have a flag of our own, or even by and large a creed that works in our favor. Because the creed that most black people are abiding by since slavery time, since it was forced on them during slavery, has not moved us one iota. Like I said, like Dr. Claude Anderson said, in over 100 years. So we have to get in alignment with the tools that are going to work for us. Get out of the emotionalism and understand that, if you want to smash a nail in the wall, use a hammer. Don't be, try to go and pick up, a stick off of the ground because you're emotionally attached to it. You got to use what works,
Right.
Because that's what our ancestors did. They utilized these things in these systems because they saw how this would be advantageous for us to move forward and progress.
Yeah, and shout out to Cornell Lex. He did have a great plan on how we can police ourselves within our community. You know what I mean? We got to put that back forth, but he did have a structure. You know what I mean? And a lot of people that care about the community ponders that. How can we secure our community? How can we, be in a position to where if there is danger, like Sonya Massey's case, I'm the one get on the phone. I call the police and I wind up dead.
Yeah.
Right? No, we should never be in fear of that.
Right.
But it's a chance. That's why we saying, hey, I would say, look, if it's problems at your home or whatever, somebody trying to break in, don't get you some target practice. Have you a gun or something and take that chance that you defending yourself, because when you call the police, you don't know what's coming to your door. There's no way of knowing. You might roll the dice and get a good one, and they fill out the report and leave, or you might get one like Sonya Massey got, and she knew it because when she first thing she said when she saw him was, she said, "Y'all not gonna hurt me, huh?" She already sensed it.
Yeah.
"Y'all not gonna hurt me, huh?"
Yeah.
She was like, I done called him to the house. She went in there and she was nervous, and she tried to get him out for him because she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," but that devil. You know what I mean? He didn't have no, that was a call for him, and he shot her.
Yeah.
And then the next part is you hoping. Now I got to go through this judicial system for justice. Will it be justice? Will they see things right? Or today is it okay? Police might get off, but we'll sue that state, and here goes some money in replace of that life that was lost. But yet the justice is still not there. And the problems is still not solved. So, brother, man, I appreciate, everything that you said and the enlightenment that you given to the audience. Before we get out of here, anything you'd like to add?
Man, last thing that I'll add is you were talking about, our elders being able to walk safely through their neighborhood. Peace be upon my father, Richard Jerome Brown.
Peace be upon him.
I remember when he hit me up, and he was walking through Studewood, and there was actually a homeless European that ran up on him and threatened him. Threatened to assault him. So, I went over there and I handled that. I threatened him, and he cowered down and was begging and pleading, that I didn't thrash him. And I ended up letting him make it. My father didn't have any problems, after that. But that's what we're talking about is, us securing our own, protecting our own.
But you done that out of love for your father.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I done the same for my father. Rest in peace. But this the thing. To generate that kind of love for people and community, right?
Yeah.
Has to stem from a place. Either you were raised with that, or you learn how to, right? Or you learn what to go to and what to stay away from, right? Some would say in today's culture, and I believe we all have our own minds, but some would say that low vibratory frequency of music and the desensitized of emotions to all the killings that's going on, that people lost the compassion or empathy for others, and it's just chaotic out, just whatever. Nobody cares. Somebody can see a man beating the old lady, snatching up purse. You have some that'll step in and say, "Hey, what you doing?" Or some just walk by like it ain't my business.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And when you have a society, bro, when you have a society that lives in that manner, then that's warning signs on the wall that the society is getting ready to implode. It's getting ready to corrode from within. Right. So that's why we have these shows, because with the wisdom that you're giving, it's saying, look, get it together, and this is why, this is what you need to do, and we give you the definitions of it to where even the fool can understand. Now it's simplified, and that way you can't say, well, I didn't know, right? Because 2025, look, you got September, October, November. You got 4 months. Really. 2025, that's the number 9, the number of completion. From today on, get it together, right? Because after, when 2025 starts and this new presidential regime is coming in, they're not gonna have no love, no sympathy, right? Yeah, I mean, it would be no excuse.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna be on.
Right.
So this is, and so you can't say, y'all, ain't nobody give back, ain't nobody, bro. This is a form of giving back. This is knowledge that people don't want out. They don't want you to know this. So people put themselves in a position to give you, out of love, to give you information, to curb this thing. And man, Texas, Houston, look, Houston and in general, but Texas overall is the place. But one thing y'all gotta realize, some know that as well. And so they're gonna be coming out with, they're gonna be on Houston. All kind of don't go to Houston. Don't put it like this. Anything that we as a whole consider to be good and that we like, then it's their job to come in and find ways to destroy it. It's always been that way. If you go and publicly you say, "Ooh, I like this," and that brings you excitement and joy, then their job is, I gotta take the rug out from under your feet. You pinpoint what you like, and their job is to make you sad again. That's Willie Lynch. You know what I mean? So if you're gonna say I like something or I love something, be ready to defend it and bag it. If you're not ready to defend it or bag it, be quiet. Don't even say that. Get out the way. You know what I mean? Because it's only causing problems. So you defend what you love. So if you say you love it, defend it. All right, we all right?
Hey, one couple more things, and then I end it on
Yes,
the
sir.
social media where they can find
Ooh, come
this
on.
information on reparations.
Yes, sir.
Let's start leading our conversations and leading off in our conversations talking sovereignty from a sovereign standpoint. I ain't talking about nothing having to do with the sovereign citizens movement. We didn't create that, and that ain't got nothing to do with us. Not saying that there's not information within it that you could draw from, but we are not a part of that movement. I'm talking about sovereignty that was created by us owning and controlling, our people, and what I mean by that is us having our own. I'm not talking about, ruling with no iron fist or, trying to, perpetuate any type of, slavery system like we've seen, other people have. I'm talking about us having our own, running our own, having our own businesses, entrepreneurship. Lead off with sovereignty, with sovereign talk, sovereign conversation, sovereign mindset, sovereign way of thinking. Lead off with knowledge of self. Start the conversation, end the conversation with that. Begin the conversation in peace, end the conversation in peace. And let's get unified. Let's it ain't about everybody falling under the same identity. It's us finding common ground and building off of that. It's always going to be different families that have different perspectives, but we bring it all together, and that's how the overall family works. That's the real understanding behind Pan-Africanism, and the social media is Moorish Empire on Facebook, Moorish Empire on IG. I've already posted the articles from the Moorish treaties where they actually literally talk about reparations and talk about slavery being illegal for Moors, and I'll be adding that on to the Moorish IG page. And that's what I got.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Ended it on peace.